Got a message that says meeting is now streaming live.
Well, it's taking a little bit. Hang on. All right, we're live.
Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Facilities Committee on January 5th, 2021 at 5:30. Is everybody on? I can't see anybody else, so I don't know. Oh, there they are. Hello.
Hello.
I see Terry. I see Pat. I see you. And oh, there's John. Okay, gotcha. Great.
We have Carla,
And
Steve.
Yep, I see everybody now.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so the first item I believe was our minutes from last meeting.
Yes.
Let me go pull those up. Hold on. Does anybody have any comments, or would anyone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve them.
Okay, motion. Thanks, Pat. And anyone's, well, we don't need a second.
No.
No.
So I think with the four of you, if you just sort of show your hands prominently.
Yeah. Any discussion, any
favor.
comments? Yeah. Any discussion, any comments? Otherwise, I'll call the vote. Hearing none. Just give a thumbs up if you approve them.
Perfect.
Okay. My meeting agenda just disappeared here. Hold on a second. There we go. So now we've done the discussion and possible action. So now update on current projects is number 3.
So yeah, so I'm going to turn most of this primarily over to Mr. Martoni, since he has a lot of information on this, and then we will take it from there up till about item D.
Great. All right, go Steve. You're up, and you're on mute probably.
Am I on mute?
No, you're good.
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good now.
Good.
Yep.
So the middle school gymnasium, since the fire, we've been working with JP McGuire and the insurance company, address the issues going on in there. So far to date, the entire gymnasium has been clean top to bottom. Everything has been, wiped down, vacuumed, scrubbed, dusted, everything you could possibly think of. We brought in Daleen flooring for the gym floor. They put in a new section of gym floor where the damaged section was. And then we got the okay to go ahead and completely refinish the gym floor. So to date, the gym floor is completely sanded. 2 coats of sealer were put on today. Starting tomorrow, they're going to start doing the game lines. Once all the game lines are on, then they're going to start doing the final finish coats of the gym floor. And then everything should be wrapped up by the 19th. After the gym floor is taken care of, we're going to meet tomorrow with JP McGuire and the insurance adjuster. We're going to look at replacing the stage curtains on the stage. And we're also going to, once everything's finished with the gym floor, it's got time to cure and everything. We're also going to do a complete cleaning of the ductwork and the air handling system above the gym. So that's kind of where we're at right now with that project. Any questions?
Do you have an idea of how much all that ended up cost? I know we have insurance, but do you know what the cost was or ballpark?
I don't have a ballpark number right now. Going to meet with the adjuster tomorrow to see what he's talking at. I know he came in, he was saying something today, guesstimating 80, but that was way too high. So not really sure where we're at yet with it. I'll get a better idea tomorrow. I can let everybody know.
Okay. Anybody else have a question?
I see Pat and then John.
Okay.
Just a curiosity question. What kind of a deductible do we have? What are we responsible for here in terms of the fees for insurance?
$1,000.
Good news, Terry.
Yep.
Best news of 2021.
Yep.
And John, you had a question?
Yeah, John's muted.
You have to unmute.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So Steve, I believe last time we talked about this in December, I think it was the insurance company was going to be looking into the cause of this and why it happened. Do we have
Yes.
any determination yet on that or any feeling? Obviously, the concern is we have all these other fixtures with the same exact bulbs and everything else. And if this is going to be something that's going to happen again, we have to take arrangements to make sure it doesn't.
Correct. And when I talked to the adjuster today, he still has not heard from basically the fire investigator, the cause and origin investigator. They're doing all the legwork and they're doing all the background investigation on what the possibility was. There is discussion that it might have been the plug and play LED tubes that were put into the fixtures, but they're investigating that right now, and he doesn't have any information yet from them. I know there's a lot of background investigation going on as to what the possible cause was.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yes. I mean, we sent over all the information from the retrofit project, what bulbs were used, what products were used. So they have all that information and they're doing their research.
And
Thank you.
Steve, just for clarity purposes, so I know that the lines in the gym floor itself would be ready by the 19th. But then we still have to do the duct cleaning and figure out what happens with the curtains. At what point do we anticipate the gym would actually be available again for student use?
We could actually start using the gym on the 19th to 20th. The duct cleaning, we could work around everybody's schedule, do that after the kids are out. So that won't be an issue. And then anything to do with the stage curtains, obviously the stage will be closed off. So if we have to do anything up on the stage, that won't impact the gym at all.
Okay.
We could pretty much go back on the 20th.
Okay,
Even
great.
even if they took the curtains down, because if they're replacing them and didn't put them back up again until April, we're not going to
Correct.
need the curtains.
Yeah, we're not going to need those. So that's even, another conversation we'll have tomorrow is whether or not we just take them down and replace them later on or what we need to do. Definitely.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item is the high school dishwasher. So far to date, we had the company A-Tech come in. They rewired the whole dishwasher. We had to have the company come in that does the dish detergent and that whole process. They had to come in and replace a couple of sensors. Once they were able to do that, as I said, A-Tech came back in, filled the dishwasher. They evaluated the pumps, the motors, what needed to be fixed there. We got a proposal to replace the gaskets, a couple of seals and everything. The purchase order is out for that repair work. I reached out to them today to see if it's on their schedule and where we're at. I haven't heard from them yet, but it's probably going to be sometime this month. We'll get that project wrapped up and taken care of. So,
Can you refresh my memory on what we paid so far for the rewiring?
so far, total cost, including what it's going to cost us for the gaskets and everything, will be $7,225.
Okay.
As opposed to the original quote was $11,188 from the other company.
Okay.
So we should all be set with that, hopefully, within the next couple of weeks.
And again, refresh my memory, but a whole new dishwasher would be something in the 20,000 range.
Probably closer to 30 by the time it's all said and done.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, with installation and everything else. Okay. Yep.
So that's where we're at with that. Any other questions with that? You just freeze up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dishwasher?
So give him a second. He's back with us.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions on the team? On the committee members?
Okay.
Pat, John? I'm not frozen, right? Am I frozen?
No,
No,
you
you're
were
good now.
before.
Yep, you're okay.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions there, guys?
Okay.
Okay.
So Moving on to the student-led help desk. On the week of the 28th, we had a Calvert come in with the mason. They open up the block wall going into the computer lab area and also in the storage closet that they're going to use. As of right now, the frames are all in place. Everything is all set. Reached out to Calvert today. They're going to have all the hardware and the doors and everything all set to go, and that will be installed on Friday. So as of Friday afternoon, everything will be all taken care of in the student help desk. And that'll be ready for the students on Monday, the 19th.
Okay.
And I have to say, it looks really, really good. It's beautiful. It's very welcoming. The repurposing of the desk from the Bethany Library Media Center, it fits perfectly. So at the point when we can have student helpers and people coming back in and out the way we want to, it's going to be a really nice space. But yeah, it's very well done and planned.
Yeah. I have been taking pictures along the way of the process, you know, the opening, the frame. I've got that. I got the Bethany gym and everything. So once those are wrapped up, I could put those together in a photo album and send them out to the facilities committee just to share whatever.
That'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be good. It helps to see what it looks like too.
Yes.
So, yep.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
No problem. And then the last thing would be the stadium project.
Yeah, it seems like the 19th are dates for both of those, right? So the 19th are for the gym and for the help desk are right around the 19th for both.
Correct. Yeah, wrapping everything up and ready to hand everything over by then.
Yeah.
That's the target.
Okay. All right. So stadium project. So some unexpected news at the end of the year. And so who wants to give the
well, I can at least start with that because I think the first question that's on people's minds is sort of what happened. And so the appeal was withdrawn. I spoke to the board's attorney immediately afterwards, and if you remember from back when this first happened, there was there's a fixed window in which the appeal can be made. And then once you're outside of that window, you can't do really anything else further. So since we are well outside of that window, the withdrawing of the appeal is kind of sort of the last step that can be done. And so we are good to move forward. Regardless of our timeline for when we opt to start. And I know that was a question that I had fielded from at least a couple of board members was like, kind of like, what's their next step? And the board's attorney has essentially said there really isn't any other one that would be able to stand up well in court. So that's the good news. Since then, Terry did reach out to Andrew Dijek from Field Turf just to kind of first of all, let him know the good news, but also to get a sense of, if anything's changed with respect to the timeline, and it really hasn't. They still look at it as a 3 to 4 month project. And we still are somewhat weather dependent on some of the items that we have to do. Whether it's, digging up the field or curing the concrete or actually laying down the rubber coating on the track, we have to kind of be attentive to the weather and the time of the year that we do that. So we have a planning meeting scheduled next Thursday with Field Turf, with, Mr. Goodwin, with Mr. Capsolatro, so kind of like the same group that sort of started all of this off almost a year ago. In the meantime, we did have a meeting today with Ernie and Mrs. Mann, and just internally, Steve, Terry, and myself, just to kind of talk about what our options are, because we're trying to weigh the benefits of completing the field and in a timely manner. At the same time, remember, we still have a third section of parking lot to pave, which we don't want to do prior to, or when we're going to have large, heavy trucks driving back and forth over that. And we're very cognizant of the fact that we have a spring sports season coming up that relies heavily on the track for the track team, as well as, we still don't have any clue what happens with graduation, but presumably it is our graduation site. So in our meeting today, we had a lot of back and forth and a lot of pros and cons of starting sooner and finishing sooner versus starting later and finishing later. So right now our plan is to talk to Field Turf to see what portions of the project could actually be completed while we're still using the stadium. So for example, it's possible maybe moving the visitor side bleachers back, which is one of the parts of the project we have to do. And most likely early on, because if you're going to expand the field and expand the track, you have to move the bleachers first. And things like that be done earlier in the spring. But that way we still maintain the track, have a place for our track team to practice and to compete throughout the springtime, maintain the field, have a place for graduation if the world comes together and we can actually have graduation on the stadium field, and then go back to our original plan of literally starting the day after graduation occurs. It would push us to a later finish. So we would again be looking at kind of that mid-September, October 1 completion date. But that would have less of an impact on the athletic teams than it would if we actually started the project through the springtime. The one thing that does impact is by late September, early October, we couldn't actually pave the parking lot, because at that point, kids would be using the parking lot. And again, you sort of have a weather dependent thing coming into play where you don't want to put down fresh asphalt when it starts to get cold. But we all agreed, and Terry can explain this more, as long as you're using a portion of the bond money, that's okay. And we could put off the parking lot paving until the summer of 2022.
Exactly.
So we'll have a much better sense from Field Turf, kind of what they can do ahead of time and how much that could shorten the project, and therefore have the field ready to go for the start of next school year after our meeting next week. But I think we felt that the loss of the field and the track this spring would have a more significant impact on our student athletes and the student body than it would be if we had to start later and then lose it for the start of next school year. So Terry, Steve, I don't know if you have anything you want to add from our meeting.
Well, we also have, another section of air handler project work that will be done at the high school, which will involve, more trucks coming in, and typically there's usually one day where crane comes in and brings things. So there'll be a lot going on the campus in the summer, and we really just felt trying to wedge that paving project in there. Of all the projects that are being done, probably the least on the priority list of, impact to our operations right now. So, and really the ideal time would be when all those other projects are done, and then have a fresh parking lot section put down. So we will have spent, once the field project's done and the air handler project's done, we will have expended nearly all of the funds. We did a portion of paving last year and a portion of the air handler project. So I had already been in contact with bond counsel when the lawsuit was started, and question about a delay, and they assured me that as long as we are moving forward and doing pieces of the project and not holding on to most of the money, and this was legally required to hold off on the field part, that we will not have any legal matters to worry about by pushing off this small portion of the funds.
We start to pay interest on the money, but we can't hold the money in any interest-bearing accounts during that time.
It's not that they can't be interest-bearing. It's just that you can't hold this money forever and be gaining interest and not be moving your projects forward, so that you're actually gaining more interest than you're paying out. And this month we make our first payment on that money that we borrowed last July. So.
Right. And have the accounts made, are they in a position to make any interest at this point?
So the interest rate is pretty abysmal at this point.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's all lumped with all of our people's bank accounts, and it's done
Okay.
in its entirety. So
So it's 0.007% or
something,
something
yeah.
like that. Yeah, yeah. You don't want to play the stock market. Apparently it was a good year for 2020, and who knows what's going to happen in 2021. Okay, no, that makes sense. And I mean, going way back now to when we were talking about parking lots, probably 4 or 5 years ago, I wasn't a big fan for rushing the paving project anyway. So I think that makes sense. It should be the last thing that happens, you know, on that. But I welcome anyone else's comment or suggestions on this. It sounds like the team is looking at the impact on the students, and that's the priority here. So any comments from anyone? Carla, yeah.
I don't know if it would really make that much of a difference in terms of time, but was there any talk of doing a graduation ceremony similar to what was done last June? And whether or not we can congregate as a group? I know there was a lot of really great feedback about how that went, and you know, would it save us a couple of weeks to start the project a little bit earlier, maybe after spring sports were over, but before graduation?
So you know, it probably could save us a couple of weeks. And maybe that's something that we can talk to Field Turf about, because we won't have a sense really of what is going to be permitted or what isn't, probably for a good another 3 to 4 months. And so maybe we could have that conversation with Field Turf about an option that, you know, let's say the state comes and says you can't do gatherings of more than 50 people, and we're sort of back to the way that we were last year, and we have to come up with an alternative plan. If we ask Field Turf, if, you know, as soon as we know that, could you come and start earlier, that might be an option, and we can certainly discuss that next week. That's a good idea.
Good idea, Carla. Pat.
Have we had any feedback from Field Turf? I mean, I know we're saying our preference would be to do it after graduation. Have they said that that's something that they can do? Or, I mean, because they're going to be having now this project that they were planning for last year, squeezing it in.
So that's really a conversation that we'll have with them on Thursday. And Terry, you can talk briefly about your conversation with Andrew. They were not enthusiastic about, say, starting on February 1st, because they felt that you're not going to be able to accomplish what you want to accomplish in a timely fashion. And it would end up probably carrying over into the summertime somewhat anyway. So, I think that, you know, again, we're part of their calendar now, and we're in a much better place to be a sure thing. I mean, to the point that the drainage pipes were delivered today. So, you know, we're moved, but again, you know, that's something they can do now that gets us, you know, one day sooner to getting to completion. So those are the types of things that we'll look for.
Okay.
Yeah, they seemed pretty open. Andrew seemed pretty open that the original time frame we had talked about after graduation would work. And as Jen said, much more hesitant about, you know, the amount of delays we might encounter if we started in February, whether it's, you know, snow, storms, temperature, in order to do certain pieces of it that we, you know, could bump up right into graduation, and it could be a problem.
I off the top of my head, I can't remember. Do we have, what was graduation date? What's the date?
Is it
June 8th, I think.
Early.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Okay, any other questions on the plan or suggestions? Again, thanks, Carla. That was a good suggestion to look at that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I just wanted to say I like the plan as laid out. I think it's very important to keep these kids, you know, to give them the chance of having the spring season. And I think the spring season starts March 20th or so, 25th. So to have all those sports, if that does work out and everything looks good in 2.5 months from now, to have them be able to play, especially for the seniors, to have them be able to play on their own field and not have to farm it out and go to all these other fields in the area. I think
Yep.
that's really worth it. And, you know, it's really not going to be much of a gain to start February 1st anyway. So if I like the plan that was laid out, and, you know, to Carla's point, you know, if it does come to that with graduation, we'll see, but, you know, let's see, 5.5 months, it's a long time from now. Hopefully we'll be on the field like we used to be. So.
In February, I mean, that's a snowy month possibly, so.
Yeah.
Mess, and months we'll change that here or there. Pat, did you have something? Or oh no, okay. No. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, John. Thanks, Patrick. Anyone else? Nope, that's it. Right. So sounds good. Thanks for the update there. Keep us, you know, apprised on you're meeting this Thursday with them, right, Terry?
Next Thursday, the 14th.
Next Thursday. Okay, the 14th. Okay. All right. Let us know if anything changes there. You can shoot me a note or something. If we need to be updated with anything. So I would then suggest we move on to discussion of the capital plan, which Terry, you shot over by email. If anyone wants to pull that up. The 5-year capital improvement plan.
Do you have it open on your computer, gentlemen?
I do. I do.
Okay.
I have it. Yeah, but I don't know if anybody else does. So give them a heads up for them to open it up.
I have it.
Okay.
Okay.
So typically this time of year before we roll out the budget presentation, we give the facilities committee an opportunity to weigh in on the 5-year capital plan. And our proposal of projects that we've kept in the plan, things we've identified that really largely as a matter of trying to keep the budget number down. We have maybe realigned in a different year or are hoping that there'll be end of year funds to take care of. The budget is, the budget packet's getting ready. I hope to have it in your packet for Friday for the AFC and BOE meetings. If not, it'll be ready Monday at the meeting, and Dr. Byers will be doing a budget presentation at both meetings. So you'll have the full budget presentation there. But this plan, as you can see, we list by school, and I can have Mr. Martoni kind of go through the items for 2020, 21, 22 for you. So, and then you can certainly ask any questions about those and then any of the years out. So Steve, if you want to walk through.
Sure. Starting at Amity High School for 21-22, we've got sidewalk repairs. We've got the Siemens control upgrade, which is the building automation system for the HVAC controls. That was a 2-part upgrade, so we're going to tackle part of it now and then part of it next year. We've got some variable frequency drives. Those are the drives that control the motors on the air handlers. Updating some of the older outdated ones there. Continuing with school security, installing the protective window film. Room 375 at the high school. That is, the back room used to be the dark room, and we're going to open up the wall to make that a bigger classroom. So if they're in the front part of the room, they can see in the back. We're going to take care of that. And then replace piping on the cooling tower. The replacing it with PVC piping. The issue we're having is there's a lot of internal corrosion on the current piping that's on the cooling tower. So we got a quote to take care of that before that starts deteriorating and could cause leaks. Moving on to Bethany.
Excuse me, can I just interrupt you, Steve?
Yep.
So I just want to highlight the items that are asterisk are items that are identified for end of year. The hope is with the frequency drives at the high school that that is HVAC related. So we're hoping that when the second HVAC project is complete, that there will be funds left from the bond project that we could use to take care of those frequency drives and not impact either year's budget.
Right. Okay. Can I ask a quick question while we're on this page? First, just the, I noticed, and I know we're not talking about next year, but I noticed that the dishwasher in the kitchen was there for 32,000 for the 22-23.
Yes.
It's a placeholder.
Is that as, okay.
Yeah.
You know, until we're really up and running our kitchen like we normally do and put it through its paces of, you know, day-to-day use. And if we, you know, have to go out to bid for food services, we do want the, you know, any vendors aware that that may be something we want them to be considering as part of the proposal they put forward.
No, I'm fine with that. And then also for the PVC piping on the cooling tower, usually there's not great transfer of hot or cold from PVC. I assume those are like supply lines that are being replaced, not the actual cooling lines. Usually they're smaller and
just the supply lines.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep. All right, that's all. Thanks.
Okay. Yep. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Moving on to Bethany.
Yep.
We got concrete repair, which is sidewalks, and more of the protective window film. Modify and repair the modular classroom. So once Orange is taken down and we figure out our storage needs, then we'll figure out what we need to do with the modular there. And then for Orange, again, the protective window film, pipe insulation throughout the building, preventive maintenance, any of the pipe insulation for cooling, heating lines, replacing any of that. Concrete repair again for sidewalks, asphalt sealing and crack repair for the blacktop for the parking lots, and then refurbish the athletic field drainage for the field over in Orange. And then we have the contingency for emergencies, and that's it for the district office. So that's pretty much our outlook for the capital improvement plan for 21-22 budget.
So the athletic field drainage for Orange, you may remember, was on last year's plan and we pushed it out a year. And, you know, the field is pretty unusable often when, you know, we're experiencing, you know, periods of rain and whatnot. So. Yeah,
it's very wet. It's very low. It's very wet. I mean, there's a stream behind it. So, I mean, it's wet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The demolition of the modular classroom on the end that we were talking about maybe last time or last meeting, I think the dumpster has you know, arrived, and I don't think it started, but I don't see it on here because it was on last year's, right? It was already covered basically.
Correct.
Yes,
the
current year.
The current year's budget is paying for that.
Current year. I'm sorry, current year. Yeah, current year.
And yes, the dumpster is there for the modulars and for other stuff in the building, the boiler room. To kind of kill two birds with one stone. But unfortunately, with shortage on employees, being out sick and whatnot, that's been taking a little longer than usual to get taken care of.
Yeah, it's been there, so it's no rush. But
forward.
I mean, the drainage of the field keeps coming up, but I don't think there's much to do about it. I mean, it is what it is. It's a low, you know, where it lies. I'm not sure if there's anything that could be put in as like pumping or anything else, but it seems like it's it gets clogged up with time, and then or silt, and then it becomes wet again. So,
well, I mean, it's my understanding that there is a drainage system in there that is clogged.
There is.
Mentioned,
So
it will have a lifespan for sure, whatever we do to replace. because
Yeah, I think it just silt probably filters through and then clogs it up with time. So it probably has been over 10 years since it was done, maybe 15 years since it was done before, at least. So
yeah.
it is what it is. It's, you know, and over time it clogs up. Does anyone have any questions on the items for next year's capital plan?
I actually just want to back up if I could real quick.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Going back to, like we were just talking about the VFDs, the variable frequency drives, the Siemens upgrades, the control upgrade for the BMS system. I just mentioned to Terry last week. I'm going to take a look. I really don't know if it's really anything that might be worthwhile, but I'm going to look into any energy efficiencies, any rebates or incentives that we might be able to get back from the energy company, doing the air handler project, doing those upgrades. So if there's any kind of rebates or incentives we'll get, I'm going to look into that and see what we can do.
Great. Great.
And I would just like to also point out that in developing the capital plan, there were certain items that were, again, slated for 21-22 that because of our current situation, we were able to push down. Obviously, starting to plan for the field replacement, we delayed for a year because we delayed the field project for a year. But even like painting the lockers, our kids haven't used the lockers for a year. So we were able to move that down. So we've tried to attend to some of our places where it's still part of the capital plan and still what we wanted to do, but we were able to shift things again because we just weren't using them or didn't have them in the same way we did when we developed this 5 years ago.
Mm.
And then you will see some new items on the years out, 22, 23, 23, 24 out. One is a couple more athletic things, installing warning tracks on the baseball and softball field. This is, to get the conversation going. They're a few years out, but just things to enhance other fields at the high school. And then, we do have a set of portable bleachers on the baseball and softball field. And, ideally a more permanent structure there would be better. We've also inserted a placeholder for remodeling the lecture hall. You've probably all been in the lecture hall in the past year. We've had a couple of presentations in there, and it's underutilized based on its design. So we think that we could better use that space if it were more in a different design, and I believe some of the chairs and everything need to be replaced. So at the time, before we decide to replace all those chairs, is that really the best design for the room? We also put a couple placeholders in for the last 2 water lines between the high schools, since we know that these are deteriorating, and we've dealt with 3 or 4 at this point, that if maybe we could address these before they become an emergency situation. We're putting placeholders in a couple years out. I don't know if there's anything else.
The additional LED lighting for Field 3. So right now we bring out the generators and the portable lights, and the hope would be that once the surrounding neighborhood sees how well the LED lights work for the stadium for actually focusing the light, we could garner some support, or at least less concern, for actually installing something permanent on Field 3, which will be significantly quieter than running the portable lights off of the generators, and actually would probably also be significantly less impactful to the neighborhood, because they would be the same focused LED lights that we would have in the stadium itself. But that was one that we put the farthest out, essentially, with the idea that we will need 5 years of running the stadium lights to convince people that this really isn't this would be a significant improvement over what we have, as opposed to something that would be detrimental.
So what we did add for Field 3 of that area was the bleachers and the pathway and the scoreboard, but there was no lighting added to that at all, or wiring or anything? I thought there was something, but
There was no lighting added to Field 3.
no. Did we run anything for future conduits for power? No?
No,
Okay.
because we didn't tear up the field, so it didn't make any sense to do that.
Yeah.
So what you,
Oh, go ahead.
I just have one other thing that for the capital plan, what you don't see on here is a new phone system, and we debated which capital plan to put it on. So it's actually on the technology capital plan, because at this point, it could become a cloud-based service. That's something we're, looking at, but that is another major capital item that needs to be addressed in, short term. It's not in the 21-22 budget, but it is on the 22-23 capital plan for technology.
Okay.
And then the potential bonding projects, that's really just a placeholder to know that, we would have additional projects. However, Steve just got, I think an email notification from Tremco today about some of the estimates for the roof project and extending the warranty and what needs to be done. He hasn't had time to go through them all. We're probably going to need to meet with Tremco and go over them. That could significantly change that 1.2 number. So I don't know if it'll be in the budget presentation or not, but it's a couple years out. And for those of you who remember the bond we did, I think in 2018, we did a $2 million bond, and I think the consensus afterwards was that that's really a small amount of money to go out and go for the borrowing. So really I'm really grateful that the AFC and the board did approve to put the 1% aside. And hopefully if we can do that, if funds are available, if these projects end up being smaller, they really wouldn't be, things you wouldn't want to go out for a bond even at this point of 1.2. So it would be helpful not to have to look at another bond.
And it saves us money. It saves us money of having to do the bonding. Yeah. So sorry for my ignorance here, but what is a warning track on the baseball field and softball field?
So anybody can take it, but that area at the end of the field before you hit a fence. So when you're running for that fly ball and, you feel the change between the grass and the clay to know that you're approaching the fence.
Okay. Gotcha.
That was very well explained, Ms. Loomis.
Yeah.
Any questions from anyone? Comments? Concerns? No. Okay.
Good.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you for that. And it's a living document, so it continues to change as we, if there's funds left over, we try to address issues where we have clocks that need updating, or we have, various things that can be taken care of. We can, but we trust you to keep an eye on that and see where we can minimize the impact. And that's why we plan so far out in the future in order to know what there is, so we can plan and address it better in our current budget year. So thanks for that, Terry. Thanks for that, Steve. Okay, going back then to the adjourned, let's see, adjourn is the next item. So is there anything else, any issues for next time? Anything else that anyone wants to bring up? Otherwise, I would ask for a motion.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Okay. Motion to adjourn. Everyone in favor of adjourning? Thumbs up. All right. Well, thanks again, you guys. Yeah. Thanks for everyone.
All of you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Happy New Year, everyone.